Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of the Off the Cushion podcast. I'm Sam Provazana, and with me is Dwayne Rester. How's it going, Dwayne?
It's going fantastic, so I'm good to see you again.
Good to see you. Episode 4, that's awesome and exciting. Today's episode is a really fun one. We're going to be talking about loving kindness, which is a really important method that some people might be already familiar with, and hopefully we'll put a different bit of insight or spin on it today in talking about its place in our practice within Chan. So, do you want to kick us off with some thoughts about loving kindness in general?
Um, this is a practice that really comes back from the time of the Buddha. I think it's in the Nikayas, it's mentioned. Um, we have our own approach in it within Chan, but this is it's a meditative practice to look into the nature of our own minds, how we view the world. So it's a very lively practice. That's what I'll say about it for now.
Good. It's a really fun one because I think it's accessible to a lot of newcomers to meditation, and you find it in different styles of meditation, not just Chan or Zen meditation. And it provides a great way for us to get in touch with feelings that we might not be familiar with. A lot of us might be going about our days with angst or feeling oppositional towards different groups, people who are outside of our family group or outside of our friend group, and brings to the fore those emotions that we might have about those people, while at the base of it, wishing them well and having loving kindness feelings towards not just ourselves and the people around us, but also the people we don't know or the people that we might have feelings of enmity towards, which is part of the practice, and developing a more sense of equanimity towards all beings. That's the surface practice, is being able to wish well or wish loving kindness towards others. But there's a deeper practice that we'll get into today as we go through the different phrases within the meditation. Do you want to talk about the just like the basic structure of the meditation and what it looks like first?
Okay, the basic structure is, of course, we always start with the foundation of our bodies being relaxed. We're not going to do that today for sake of time, but we will go through the practice itself. But um, in order to get, ultimately, what we're trying to get to is to be able to be at this place of balance without a lot of mental reservations or mental defilements to very difficult situations, maybe difficult people. And these days, of course, there is some worldwide major difficulty. And we tend to look at something like that and it's like, oh my gosh, what can I do? How can I address this crisis? I feel so helpless. Loving kindness is a practice that can help us toward that, but we can't just jump into that with both feet, because we might go into it with maybe too much feelings of dread, maybe too much anger. So, how do we get to a point where we can actually wish all beings well? Um, the Buddha had said that, I really only have one teaching, and that is life is suffering, and that there is a way out of suffering. But it's a simple statement, but how do we get there? And so within loving kindness, we actually look at it. We start with ourselves. This is if you want to think of, say, if you're sending loving kindness, this wishing well, and we are the source from which this arrives. We actually start with ourselves. And why would you start with yourself? That seems counterintuitive. Well, if we want purity of our heart, we have to look at our heart. Guagu has used the terminology of like a very clean pipe. If
Mm.
our pipe has a lot of muck along the sides, and like it's a straw, and say there's a lot of germs and stuff in the straw, or dirty stuff, and what we're sending out has flavors of our own defilements. Um, and so we actually start with ourselves. And then we kind of move to what's considered a neutral person. Then we have loving kindness towards a friend, a spiritual friend, a teacher, someone like that. And then to the more difficult situations. Um, the premise is it's not just wishing people well, but looking at how we are as humans. And of course, the very first thing it has to deal with our own safety, our own health, and then just basic happiness from necessity. And then ultimately to be at peace and to be at balance in the world. So we'll probably talk about that a little bit more. But this part of defilements, what's called mental defilements, there's a quote that I wrote down from the Buddha, and then Sam, you have a poem that we can share just so we can talk about what this looks like. Um, the mind or the heart, which in Chan, mind and heart's the same thing. The mind heart is naturally radiant,
Mm.
meaning it has no defilements. The mind heart is naturally radiant and pure, but it is because of visiting forces known as defilements that we suffer. There's that word suffering
Mm.
again. Um, so it is in Chan, the way I express loving kindness, and others have expressed it as well, is let's take a look at these defilements and the other talks from before, the three dharma seals, the three gates of liberation. Look at that, and you'll have some ideas also what that means. But use this analogy of this clean pipe from which your loving kindness is coming from. And then as we practice this, is there any sense of judgment? Is there any sense of you perceiving how this should be given and who it should be given to? If we want the world to be at peace, that is everyone. Um, Guagu has said that everyone's trying their best,
Mhm.
even in the most difficult of circumstances, and when people are doing really terrible things in their mind, in their unclean pipe, they're doing their best for the people who think just like them. But it is that whole mental defilements that we're ultimately getting to with any of these practices that we're doing, any of these senses of self, which is what in Zen we would call it, just is this self-centered, self-referential thinking. It's very, very deep. And so this loving kindness practice is a way of kind of looking at that, internalizing that in a way, but just letting go of any attachments to our own ideas, but just wishing love, wishing kindness. Love is unconditional. That's why they use such a strong word like love. But even you think about love, and we say, "Oh, I love that person." Oh, but they don't love you anymore. Well, I don't love them. Was that love? No,
Mm.
love is unconditional,
Mhm.
meaning no conditions whatsoever.
Right.
In loving kindness, that's what we're talking about unconditional love, no restrictions. Think about that one.
That's a beautiful illustration. It's such a beautiful practice too, because as you mentioned, the Buddha offered was that suffering exists, and the reason and there's a way out of it. And the reason why we suffer is because we don't see things the way that they actually are. We think of them as being static, reified or solidified, as Guagu puts it, and solitary. We see ourselves as the center of the universe and everything is supposed to revolve around us. But if we invert that, we recognize impermanence, that things are constantly changing, the interrelated nature of everything, and the way that we're actually free in this very moment, that nothing binds us. That's the path out of suffering and into liberation. And Chan, as well as other schools of Buddhism and schools outside of Buddhism, have methods to take us to that place, to give us a view of the vista of being liberated and not chained in this way. Namely, in Chan, usually there's these three, or at least in the lineage that we practice, there are these three um, tentpole meditation methods: the meditation on the breath, silent illumination, and Wato or Gongan or Koan practice. And we can talk about those in a separate episode. Um, and yet, this loving kindness practice, I think, should not be overlooked. The surface practice is useful to anyone, whether they're, Chan practitioners or Buddhist practitioners or whatever. Just, I think we can all kind of agree, wishing loving energy towards others, is a good practice. Like just developing our compassion, developing our empathy, developing our loving kindness. That's a, the very base level practice is doing that. And in so doing, if you imagine you're wishing well for yourself, for a benefactor or a Dharma friend, for a neutral person, and then for someone that may vex us or someone that we think is, irritating, we do that every day. We can't help but start to develop equanimity towards these different people and these different groups of people. And what that does over time is brings us closer to the reality of that interconnected nature um, of all things that we experience in our talk about the three Dharma seals. So loving kindness on the surface is already bringing us closer to what the Buddha taught in terms of being liberated from suffering, seeing things as interconnected, and
Yes.
seeing that, I may have enmity or stereotypes about a certain group of people and not realizing that they're the people that have prepared my food, or they're the people that you know have built my desk, and I start to develop an affinity to all types of people, all groups of people, and all types of individuals just by nature of doing this practice. But there's a deeper practice for those that are more, I don't want to call it advanced meditators or more engaged in the meditation practice, is using loving kindness as what we sometimes call a BS meter to kind of like
Mhm.
check our practice and see like how deeply invested are we in this love for all human beings, love for all beings, or is it just lip service? Because when you called it a pop quiz the other day when we were doing sitting meditation practice, if I'm so obsessed with my meditation practice, like silent illumination or Wato or meditating on the breath, and I sit on the meditation cushion, and I just feel so good about myself. And then I go out in the world and I curse at the first person that cuts me off on the freeway, or they get my order wrong at the salad bar or whatever, and I go and tell them off, or I won't leave them a tip. How well am I actually doing in my practice? How much is that? How much am I chipping away from that sense of self that everything else is supposed to revolve around me? Well, loving kindness is going to tell you.
Exactly.
Probably your spouse
Exactly.
might tell you, or somebody else will give you that feedback in daily life. But if you need a check, you sit in loving kindness and you bring to mind someone who really vexes you, and you start, thinking, oh, may you be well, may you be happy, maybe may you be safe. What kind of emotions arise when what kind of emotions and thoughts arise when you start wishing them well? Is it like, may you be well, you POS? Like, obviously, that's not, that my practice is only lip service if I'm not able to to truly feel loving energy emanating from myself towards this person. And I was having a conversation with someone just yesterday about this, and saying that, if we get to that place where we're doing loving kindness for these four categories as you mentioned, and we get to a place where we're trying to wish loving kindness for someone that vexes us, it might be difficult. And perhaps, uh, we feel like we're empowering them by sending them loving kindness energy. That's a common complaint that I've heard, and it's the opposite of that, actually. It's that
Mhm.
we're empowering ourselves to have a different view of this person and to see things from their perspective that they might be completely delusional in their hate, in their violence, in their activities, but it's that delusion that we are attempting to target in our own practice.
Exactly.
We're trying to counter our own hate. We're trying to overcome our own enmity so that we can be better people and have better relationships with everyone around us. And that's like doing 50 pull-ups when you're first starting. Like that might be feel difficult when we start. So we start small and see what we can do.
Right. I'll give an example that I've given people before when we can take ourselves just to kind of our circle of friends or whatever, or people in our wheelhouse. There's a tendency, especially when the world is in chaos, which almost is always depending on where you look. But there's one part where we wish, may you be healthy. And we're thinking of a person. And let's say it's a person we know that has a drinking problem, or they eat too much, or they smoke too much, and they go like, and you're in this really nice, peaceful place, or you think you are, and you say, "May you be well." In the back of your mind, you're thinking, as long as you would just stop drinking and smoking and eating fried chicken twice on Fridays, that's judgment.
Uh-huh. That's right.
You are saying, may you be healthy. In other words, be like me. I'm just wonderful. Bullshit. That's where we call that's the BS meter. It's like, no, what is well? What is may you be healthy? What is healthy? And without reservation whatsoever, without any kind of judgment, without any kind of filter, that is what we're talking about. Coming from that place. And that's why we start with ourselves and loving kindness, because um, for people, it's just, gosh, I've got too many problems. Okay, wonderful. But again, going back to that clean pipe, then you're saying maybe to somebody that may you be at peace, but if you can't kind of come to some place at least to imagine what that might be like. And by the way, peace is basically a very balanced. It's equanimity of the four Brahma Viharas. Loving kindness is the first one. Equanimity is supposedly the last one, but it is really the base in which the others are built. And four Brahma Viharas is loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. But equanimity is balance, meaning no judgment. Um,
Just
and
present.
so when you say you're thinking about this person, maybe it's a difficult person, and we'll get into this, but just so you know, so I don't have to repeat it. When you say, "May you be at peace, you awful son of a bitch," in your mind, that's internalized peace, really, and that's why we do the progressive relaxation, because you're trying to get to this place where at least if your best is just to kind of imagine being completely in balance. Doesn't really matter what's going on. Doesn't matter that you have rent due. Doesn't matter that you don't have enough money to buy food. Those are all part. Can you find a level of contentment in the way things are, the way life is, not the way you want it to be, but the way it is. Start from that place and say to these various individuals as we walk through it, and come from this very pure sense, peace, health, safety, whatever it is. No reservations. Look for that. That's what we do as Chan or Zen perspectives. It's like, may you be safe. Thank God you're not in Gaza. You know, something like that. Those people are in danger, but it is because of all these mental defilements um, on one group of people versus another group of people. They're basically, I'm taking my mental defilements and fighting against your mental defilements. But mine's better than yours. No, it is all very self-centered. Very self-centered can also be nationalistic. It can be religious, but it's a sense of separation. It denies the reality that we all live in this world, that we're all part of this world, that this world knows no boundaries, knows no religion, knows no individual, but we're all in this together. That is reality. We can deny it all we want, And then, 1,000 years from now, somebody lives on the same land that we did, and maybe they're practicing a different religion, different philosophy, whatever. But that's that impermanence thing. I don't want to go too deep in this. It's very, very detailed, a lot of information into one thought. So this is why we relax the body and just try to come to this place of, if you had to look for one term in loving kindness, is non-judgmental
Mm.
balance, non-judgmental. So instead of bringing all of the Dharma back in your head, what does judgmental mean? Of course, is that if I apply any of my own ideas to you, that's judgmental. Um, right. Um, one of the things that we hope to do in this podcast is, and we often bring up the word Chan, but within many other religious traditions, there are some of these same ideas, some of these same, they may approach it a little bit differently, perhaps softer, perhaps harder, though I don't think so. But there's a beautiful poem by Rumi called The Guest House. Do you have a copy of that,
I
son?
I don't have it on me, but I could search it. I could search for it while you're talking, and we could
Okay, well, yeah, if you would do that, because it basically it talks about people visiting your house or your place of business, and if you take it, it's like, yeah, it's really great to have good customers, or yeah, some of these people that come in, they're not so great, but Rumi is actually approaching it from a different place, and if we treat these visiting guests as defilements, as our own thoughts, as our own preferences, as our own ideas, our own beliefs, these are the visiting guests. The Buddha talks about in the Dhammapada. And there's one verse in there that's like, house builder, I have recognized you. I am tearing down the rafters. I am tearing down the walls. And what are these rafters? What are these walls? What are all these things in this house building? This house is us, our own mental constructs of our ideas of how life ought to be and how I am. And then everything else outside of my house is outside of my house. It's this house builder. And so, so the Buddha has this very beautiful, look it up on the house builder. I think if you typed in house builder, I recognize you. Then you can get to the Dhammapada, that part of the verse. But, people like Rumi also has this guest house, which they're almost saying the same thing. Um, Actually, I think the Buddha was a little bit more brutal, but in the description.
I have the poem up here. I can read it for us.
Okay, please read
And
it.
then I've been timing it so we make sure we have enough time to actually do the practice in this episode.
Okay,
So
okay,
we'll
yep,
move to
all
that
right,
after this.
yep.
Um, so this is translated by Coleman Barks,
Mhm.
very popular translator of Rumi. It's called The Guest House by Jalaluddin Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
Wow.
I'll link this in the description for
Yeah.
our video today.
And there's one part in that poem. I like to have stuff like this to jump from. Greet them with laughter and joy. What is that about? That's such a good thing because we can look at some of these really hard practices and like, damn it, there I go again. And that doesn't help your practice. But if you can look at like, oh man, I wow, those tentacles of me um, having these preconceived notion of how my spouse ought to be, or how my job ought to be, or how that person ought to be, those run so deep.
Pretty deep, right?
Yeah, and it's later when we talk about Watto and our silent illumination, we actually kind of this sense of joy. sense of curiosity, sense of fascination. It was like, oh my God, there that thing is at the door again.
There I
You
go
know, it's
again. There's
coming
the
in.
guest.
There's a gap. And so we're trying to get to this non-judgmental, this balanced point of view, this equanimity, these things that come in while we're practicing this. Oh, hello. We're going to be at peace right now, but you just got over there and said, I'll deal with you in a minute. I know that's there, but you're not part of this conversation right now. So look at these defilements as visiting guests.
Love it. Let's do
Yeah,
it. So we should probably caveat that this is an abbreviated version of the practice.
right.
Usually we have these bookends for our meditation practice. We'll start with progressive relaxation, which there should be a video on the Life is Actually Good YouTube channel by the time you're listening to this or watching this that you can follow along with that and see what that's about. And then after the practice, we do some self massage to wake up the body and continue the meditation practice. And sometimes even before everything or after everything, we'll do some moving meditation to get in the right mode. But we're just going to do the loving kindness practice that Dwayne's going to walk us
Okay.
through at this point.
And before we get started, and just for reference, when you go back, we talk about with the four phrases we use, which is safe, healthy, happy, and at peace. And then there's four people that we start with: ourself, um, a neutral person, and a neutral person is like somebody you see every day. You don't really know them, but you see them every day at the store, the gas station, whatever. Another is, let's just use the terminology of a spiritual friend or a benefactor, a teacher, someone you kind of look up to. And then the last is a difficult person. So with that, buck in, kind of, we'll get started. I'm actually going to ring a bell. We'll probably, what do you think, 15 minutes, Sam, is okay?
Yeah, that sounds good. And while you're guiding us, do you also want to talk about the you mentioned the non-conceptual part of that of
Oh, thank
the
you.
feelings?
Okay, so again, if we the non-conceptual part of it is that when you're talking about something like safe, healthy, happy, and at peace, we have the constraints of being non-judgmental, or balanced. But what does that really look like? So if you can have this embodied sense, a felt sense of safety, not a descriptive analysis, but what it's like to be safe, what it's like to be healthy. You're alive. Yeah, you may have some cancer or other problems or whatever, but just beyond that, what in its purest sense, it uses the purest sense of the word and try to relate to it in that way. And peace is basically without conflict, without division. Um, so yes, a background of what the word means, but really a felt sense. When that comes from your heart, not just your mind, but from your heart. So this is kind of a balance of the heart and mind. You know the knowledge of the word healthy, but from your heart, non-judgmental, balanced. Okay. Here we go. Loving kindness practice. Try to find a posture that's comfortable. You don't have to be sitting in lotus or anything, but just for now, with the guided relaxation as a tool. At least for now, relax the forehead and the space between your eyes. Your eyes can be closed. Being aware of our cycle of breathing in and out. Not trying to control the breathing, just relaxed. You could even be sitting on a couch. This isn't a formal sitting meditation in that aspect. Loving kindness, we start with ourselves. This is phraseology we're going to go through, and we'll say it 3 times, each of the 4, and then repeat them 3 times. So let's picture ourselves as we're sitting here, and you may picture yourself at one of your happiest moments, not when you're feeling bad, but when you're feeling good. Maybe it's right now. Maybe picture it as like your older, wiser self saying to your younger self, so that you could have a good, long life. And you say, you don't say it out loud, say, may you be safe, free from danger or harm. As you breathe in and breathe out, just think what that is like for a person, in this case yourself, to be in a safe, loving environment, free from danger. May you be safe. May you be safe. With our basic need of safe taken care of, the next is that may we be healthy. Both our environment and our own health, even if we have some issues. May we be healthy. May I be healthy. As you repeat these phrases, sometimes you can just say the word and not have to repeat the whole phrase. Healthy. May I be happy, joyful. May I be content. No matter the circumstances, but to be joyful. May I be happy. May I be happy. May I be at peace. This is a deeper level of contentment. A deeper level of balance. And again, this is regardless of circumstances. May I be at peace. Peace. Now, with this sense of equanimity, of peace for ourselves, let's broaden this and go to a person that might be considered a neutral person, either friend or foe. But this somebody maybe you see every day or once a week at the grocery store. But pick an individual. So try not to broaden it out too much. But just pick an individual. Picture them in your mind. Maybe this is a person that you get your coffee from every morning. And you're standing back, you're looking at them in a loving way. May you be safe, free from danger, free from any kind of harm. May you be safe, safe. We never know what sneaks up on us out there, other people with health. People live long lives, people have short lives. So that we hope that everyone lives a good, long life. We think about their health and we say, may you be healthy, free from disease. May you be healthy, healthy. And again, coming from this place of having no idea what this person's life is like, what struggles they have, coming from this deep-seated place in our own soul, our own heart. May you be happy, joyful. May you be happy, happy. You look at that person again, and maybe we see a smile on their face, a pep in their step, in their movement, good vibes. We say, may you be at peace, just as you are now, content. May you know peace, peace. Now we move to the next group or person. And this is a spiritual friend, a good friend, teacher, maybe someone that you aspire to be more like. And again, that's judgment. But knowing people as we do, we still wonder. We still hope for them the best. May you be safe, always, free from danger, free from harm, safety, no harm. We want everyone to live a good, long life. May you be healthy, healthy, live long. See that person again, their good nature. May you always know peace, peace, peace. Now, coming from this place where we have wished ourselves that we live long and healthy in peace, for others that we don't know so well, the same, for people that we know well, the same. Coming from this place of equanimity, coming from this place of peace, knowing that we all have visitors to our guest house, and knowing that our own mental constructs can cause us stress, uneasiness. Well, everybody is like us. Even the most difficult people, they are still trying their best, possibly, unfortunately, from a place of very conditioned mind, these visitors to our guest house. And just as we greet these visitors, and knowing one day that maybe they won't visit us, that we will be truly at peace, we wish this for our adversaries, or perhaps they're just difficult to other people. And for them too, may you be safe, free from danger, free from harm, safe, safe. Picture that person. Don't try to pick a large group, but just pick one person. And know that they may suffer from the same defilements that you do, the same visitors, but they haven't addressed it yet, possibly. We don't know. May you be healthy. Healthy. May you live long. And just as we begin to find peace and contentment by dropping our angst, our strong emotions, our strong opinions, and we begin to find joy, we're not in our own way from our mental constructs. We wish this for this individual. May you too find joy. Happiness. Happiness. May you find peace in your life, with your family, in your community. May you find peace. Peace. Now we'll move to one more. This is where we can kind of broaden loving kindness. And so just as in that poem, Rumi says, we greet these visitors, these angst, these strong emotions, these strong ideas with a sense of joy because we know they still have roots, but they're not as strong as they were because we begin to find peace. You can find an area in the world, just bring it down to say, what's in my mind right now is a street level view where people are going about. Things aren't so great. Things are bad. Safety is a concern. Immediate. May you be safe. May you be safe. You find these people finding shelter. They can't do anything about what's going on right now, but we can wish for them to be safe. May you get the immediate health that you need, the care that you need, the food, the water. May you find it in your shelter, free from danger, free from harm, even at this moment, right now. And even in this desperate moment, surrounded by people, perhaps loved ones that are sheltered, that have water, food, necessary medical arrangements. May you find a clear sky, fresh air, some level of happiness with that, or at least to be content with it. May these struggles end very soon. And when they end, that you find peace. If not for the grace of God, there go I. Not bringing these vexations into the world through vengeance, but through peace. May you find peace. Sorry, that was emotional for me.
So powerful. Wayne, thank you for guiding us through such a wonderful and clear practice. I think we all can use a good dose of that every day in terms of our loving kindness practice. And for some of us, it might be difficult to wrap our minds around how to do something like this practice. With such clarity and such poise that you've offered for us. And there's some different ways that we can apply this. If you want to take one group of people over several days, and let's say you're taking the conflict in Gaza or let's say a conflict in Ukraine, or wishing one side loving kindness and then the other side loving kindness, or wishing all beings loving kindness, or you're just, you have concern for a friend, and so you're focusing on them day after day for a week. There's as many variations as you can think of. And if you have a mala, or prayer beads, of some meditation beads, you can likewise just, you could spend 15 minutes just on the word safe, or
Right.
just a whole round of mala beads just on the word um, you know peace, and integrate that into your practice. So, and I'm so inspired by what you showed us, and really want to encourage everyone to find a way to incorporate this into your meditation practice, because things will change. This is a very powerful practice that helps us um, add to whatever else that we're doing. It's additive to all of our other different methods, and very, very powerful way to be engaged, even if we feel like we're powerless in other ways.
Exactly. And I thank you for bringing that up of there, you can go through this process of 4 different groups of people, or you can take one group or yourself. And it's really important to, have that clean pipe. So if you feel, at peace, really at peace, um, then you don't have to go back to self, but you need that as a foundation. And, for particularly if it's like, say, Ukraine or Gaza or something like that, and you just really are wishing for peace, safety, when people are suffering, then yeah, you can, like Simon said, you can use the mala beads, and you just think of peace is a good word because that is almost inclusive of the other things. And this place of um, that your safety is might be questionable, to say this is a conflict, but you're wishing for other people, but that you just wish that they find peace. And then, you just really internalize that to that level. It can be emotional. I found myself emotional. I not expected that. But and then just and that is kind of an embodiment of the word. And then you take a mala bead and you just thumb it, and you go through it. Mala bead usually is 108 beads. And how many times? Three times. So you go through 108 times, just not quickly, because then you're just using words, but this felt sense, and it may be emotional for you. Um, and just, thumb through the beads with a sense of purity in your heart. And but also with this idea that, that it doesn't continue, which is always the case, so peace is, um, okay, we have peace, now we're going to use vengeance. No, it never ends. And the innocents are always the victims. Um, there are no, there is innocence on both sides of any crisis. There are always innocents, and that's most of the people. Even the soldiers carrying the weapons, there there are many causes and conditions that got them to the place that they're at. We don't know their story. And again, this is that judgmental place. You don't know their story. The old story of walk a mile in another person's shoes. Will you even make two steps? I don't know. But this sense of equanimity, sense of peace, sense of balance, um, without reservations, without going back into a vengeance that we just keep repeating this, but just for the world to be at peace. But the core of why we are not at peace is we haven't made peace with our own visitors to our own guest house.
That's right.
And that extrapolated out becomes nation states warring, but we are the same. So this practice is very much about how we approach the world. Um, you want to fix the world, you got to start with yourself and do what you can. Don't add to the shitstorm. It doesn't any good. But hopefully from peace, one person, there are countless examples, and maybe we'll have an inspirational talk one day of how one person made a difference throughout history, one person. So don't think that you can't do it. So to sit there with your beads in your room or go through loving kindness, oh, it's not going to make any difference. Yes, it will. It is in your heart where it will make a difference.
It's so true. And there might be some, I don't want to belabor the point, but there might be some questions about like, well, how can I do the mental gymnastics, if I view the terrible things happening in Gaza? How can I um wish peace for, let's say, Palestinians and feel like I'm not making any difference at all? Or in the war in Ukraine, how can I wish well for Ukrainians, but then turn around the next day and wish well for, the Russian soldiers? Like, isn't that, being complicit in the violence? And actually, neither of those cases are really true. On one level, we're not like magically thinking people into peace or, happiness. Of course, we wish those things and we wish that those things are actualized. And maybe if the entire world got together and did that, absolutely that would happen because those who are creating aggression are not party to that aggression anymore, certainly. Um, but the deeper layer here is to look at that part within ourselves uh, where we view enemies as enemies and friends as friends.
Right.
And we don't see that these categories are actually very valuable. One of the people that are is our loved one or our Dharma friend or a benefactor, maybe they were an enemy in the past.
Right.
Or maybe the neutral person, tomorrow we strike up a conversation and they become a friend. And so
Right.
these categories are impermanent. They don't really have any inherent meaning except for the ones that we ascribe to them. And so this loving kindness practice is to open us up to um, having a more a better sense of equanimity towards all beings, so that I mean, for its own benefit, but also so that when the opportunity arises, when we are in power to take some sort of action, when we are able to vote, when we are in a position to promote peace, we're ready to do that.
Right.
And
Right.
there's nothing holding us up, holding us back from engendering or promoting peace wherever we are.
And, with the background of what can, what very self-centered mindset. So when you have conflict, large scale conflict, if you think about your defilements, what we call defilements, but these are really points of view, opinions and stuff, and they become more of a global scale, a community, a state, a nation, and they have this collective mentality. Where are the roots of that collective mentality? They still come from these same guests that visit our house. Now it's the guests that visit the whole neighborhood or the whole
Right,
community. All of a
right,
sudden, into this one big mentality. And so we have these separations of us, me and them, this and that. Um, and so we have these horrible examples of how this extrapolated can be a terrible thing. Now, can we do anything about it at that moment? Quite possibly not. You can vote, you can call your senator, and all these other good things. But these things do pass. These wars do end. These conflicts do end at some point. And what happens, I think, is in those places of conflict out there that we can pay attention to, as opposed to pay attention here. Um, it's in those breaks that we think that's peace because there's no conflict, nobody's shooting at you. That's not peace. We still have internal conflicts. And so this quest, yes, we may look at these guests that come into our house and greet them with some, there it is again. But ultimately, we have to take care of it. We really should take care of it because we are adding to this dis-ease. We are adding to conflict if we pretend that it doesn't have significance, because it does. And so we should continue to look within ourselves so that when we do have people not killing one another, don't rest. Keep practicing. Keep going at it. Islam, you and I do what we do. Nobody's paying us to do this.
that's
We
right.
do this because we found peace in our life. And we thought, God, this is so important, and we pass this along. This is how communities can grow from a place of peace, from a place of equanimity. Um, and so does everybody have to do that? No, but start where you're at, and if it feels like there's Uncle Joe talking trash again, find a way to bring loving kindness to Uncle Joe. To not argue with Uncle Joe, recognize that Uncle Joe is suffering from his own delusions of self-grandeur. And then instead of trying to say, Uncle Joe, you're full of crap, just say, well, Uncle Joe, I feel a little bit differently about that. And um, maybe that's your point of view. Do you actually know that guy over there? Have you walked in his shoes? Do you know his story? Well, no. Maybe Uncle Joe will begin to kind of dissect his view of the other. And that's what loving kindness is to so we can kind of dissect our own view of other, this person, that person, this situation, and realize that Our conflict starts with judgment based on our own view.
Got to
So start there.
tend the garden.
Yeah, tend your own garden.
Yep. Let me perhaps I'll close this with rereading The Guest House,
Oh, great.
and then we can move forward.
Yeah, it's
So,
beautiful.
this being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
I've read that 1,000 times and I hear it different each time. That's beautiful.
Well, let me just thank everybody so much for joining in on us with this episode of Loving Kindness on Off the Cushion. And if I could ask you to please like and subscribe so that we can keep delivering more to you. And if you have a question, you can leave it or a comment, you can leave it in on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you found us. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dwayne. See you all next time.